So next up, I'm going to present our latest research. Now, we call it as the Twimbit Purpose Index. Now, this is a research that we have now. This is the second consecutive year that we are doing this piece of work. Now, way back in 2018, about 180 of the top companies in United States, their CEOs got together in what is an event called as the Business Roundtable event, and they all signed a memorandum of understanding that they will now move their businesses to serve all stakeholders in equal measure, right? Because most of the time when you talk about businesses, we always talk about, what is the profit, what is the growth in net profit, what is the return on equity. That is how we measure the success of a business. That is how the value of the business is ascertained. But increasingly we are moving into a world where now society is demanding that businesses should go back to their original purpose of what businesses were set up for, which was to serve society in its fullest measure. So how do we make sure that the purpose index, and we can stay on the first slide, yeah, how do we make sure that companies are serving each of the stakeholders, that is customers, partners and suppliers, planet and society, employees and shareholders, all of them in an equal measure? That means an employee is as important as a customer is as important as the shareholder, is as important as the partner, right? So this is easy to say, but extremely hard to do. Twimbit is a young firm. We have about 50 employees, and even we at times find it very hard to make sure that we can live by this philosophy with which we actually build the company. So what we said was, how do we create this index in which we can measure companies, and in this case, the banking industry. And so what we did is we picked up 42 of Asia's leading banks, and we started benchmarking them across these 5 parameters. And that leads us to how we created this index. And the next slide. So what we did was we looked at several distinct parameters to be able to put all of that information in one chart, and that is how the purpose index came into being. So, and you will see that soon on the x axis, we talk about an aggregated score of how well the company has performed on customer experience, employee experience, supplier satisfaction, and serving society. So, the 4 distinct stakeholders. On the y-axis, we talk about how well did they grow their business in the last financial year. The size of the bubble on the chart that you will see reflects really the size of the overall business of that particular bank, and its impact on the total banking ecosystem. And the color gradient of each of the circles, which represent each of these banks, represent the EBITDA margin, and how well or operationally efficient is the particular bank. So this becomes a fabulous way in which you can benchmark banks. And the most important thing is the outcome of that is it enables us to understand, hey, which banks are doing really well, and what are the best practices from them that others can learn from, right? So if I can have the next slide. So as we discussed, you can see on the y-axis, we are talking about the revenue score or the growth score. So what we have done is we have plotted these companies on the y-axis based on how fast, how much growth did they achieve in the last financial year. So you can see that banks like Canara Bank from India or Bank of Queensland achieved among the highest revenue year-on-year growth in the last financial year. You also have Australia, New Zealand Bank, ANZ Bank also high up there. So you can see in that cluster of banks right on top, these are some of the fastest growing banks, right? And now on the x-axis, you see the purpose score, in which case we aggregated the score in terms of the performance of the banks across 3 distinct pillars, which is employee experience, customer experience, supplier satisfaction, and ESG. Apologies, 4 distinct pillars, right? So the banks which are to the furthest to your right, so for example, DBS leads the purpose score. They are the best performing in terms of integrating employee experience, customer experience, supplier satisfaction, and also with the best ESG proposition and strategy so far. Right. So you can see as you are further to the right, the further you are in terms of your purpose score. Now, the size of the bubble denotes the size of the bank itself. So for example, ICBC, CCB are the biggest banks, in terms of in the Asia Pacific region, and this excludes the banks in Japan. We have currently covered China and ASEAN and Australia, New Zealand, and Indian subcontinent in our analysis. Now the color gradient, right? The color gradient is, so you can see the most profitable banks or the best performing in terms of EBITDA is again, there seems to be an inherent advantage by scale. So ICBC has the best profitability score, CCB has the best profitability score, HDFC from India has the best profitability score. You also have Public Bank from Malaysia, which operates very well. HLB in Malaysia also operates quite well in terms of profitability, right? So you can see now on this one chart, we have actually captured a variety of different dimensions to be able to help understand, the best performing banks, how well they are performing, how well they are growing. So, but overall, you can say that, ANZ Bank is up there as a reasonably good leader, which balances both purpose score, the revenue score in terms of growth, as well as the profitability score. So the cluster, clearly you can see the Australia, New Zealand, and Singapore banks in particular do well in terms of balancing both revenue and as well as the purpose score. I think a notable entry is SCB, which is Siam Commercial Bank, which has also done well in terms of purpose score, even though it is one of the loan banks from Thailand. And then you have the likes of HLB, and Public Bank from Malaysia, both also doing extremely well on the purpose score. Right. So fascinating set of analysis, and we'll send this to you guys. All of you are interested. Please write into us. You can write to me or my colleague Varnika at twimbit.com and Manoj at twimbit.com, and we are happy to share this analysis with you. You can also log into twimbit.com to be able to access this entire research. Time is limited, so we just wanted to give you a brief overview of this particular research which we are releasing, and this essentially forms the backbone of all the work that we are doing in the financial services space with the research that we do.